the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show.
Welcome to the Dep Lewis Show, episode 185. This is your host, Dep Lewis, and today is Sunday, June 21st, 2026. A great day for a podcast about video games and more. So I hope you're doing great out there in the world, wherever and whenever you're listening to this. Thank you for being here. The first order of business is to ask you to follow Dep Lewis Show everywhere. Full episodes of Dep Lewis Show available anywhere you can find a podcast. So find the best place to subscribe and listen weekly. Places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Amazon Music, and more. YouTube is also a great place to watch replays on games live or check out the videos later. And if you would like to support the show even further than just listening, patreon.com/Dep Lewis Show is available if you'd like to subscribe monthly. Also, Venmo at Dep Lewis Show is available any day, anytime, for any amount if you would like to support the show. And today's show will have three sections as always. The first section, I'll tell you about what video games I've been playing since I've last talked to you on this microphone. The mid section, which is not mid in quality, it's the middle of the show. That's where I tell you about everything going on around the video game world that you need to know. And the third and final section, the Miscellaneous Talk section, that's a break from all the video game talk, and I like to get into the worldwide world of sports and keep you up to date with what's going on with my favorite teams. And my favorite team, the Atlanta Braves, are playing in a couple hours, according to real time. So plenty of time to record a podcast today and then go watch them Atlanta Braves. That's my plan over here. But the main plan today is to do the Dep Lewis Show, episode 185, and that's what I'm here to do. And I'm here to talk about some video games, so let's get into it. So what have I been playing since I've last talked to you on this microphone? And I've been playing some more Pokemon, so that will probably be no surprise to you. If you've been listening to this show at all this year, I've been playing a lot of Pokemon. I really got hooked on it with the release of Pokemon Leaf Green coming to Nintendo Switch. And, you know, if you've been listening, I've completed that game. I completed Pokemon Sword. And now I'm moving on, trying to figure out which next Pokemon game I want to play. And if I still want to keep playing, and I do. So I'm playing some Pokemon Violet. I've started a Pokemon Violet file before, like I do with pretty much every game I play, but I only got a couple hours in, and I have restarted for this playthrough, and I have chosen Sprigatito as my starter Pokemon. So that is the grassy cat Pokemon. You can also pick Fuecoco or Quaxly. Those are the other two options, and I think they're all pretty strong options in this game, but I think Sprigatito kind of fits in line with a lot of the Pokemon I like, and I've been enjoying, kind of gives me a little bit of the leaf green of starting off with a grass Pokemon, and I think I do enjoy that. So I have started playing this game. I've basically gotten past the tutorial section is all I've really done so far, so I have made it to the Academy, and I have been explained from the different people all the different things I can do out there in the world. One thing that surprised me in a good way was there's still an emphasis on doing the 8 gyms and completing I think it's called the Paldea Cup, which is like the Victory Road Champions League type situation, Elite Four ending to this game. So that's definitely one of the main storylines, and I guess maybe the most main one, but there's also the storyline of, Team Star in this game? And then there's what else are they doing in this game? There's a Team Star. There's just collecting the Pokemon to build out the region. And there might be one other like a mystery going on that I got to go solve kind of thing. So it's pretty interesting how they lay out the story in this game, which is fan favorite, maybe I'd say, of the gym style and the Elite Four, but then adding some other stuff in the mix to spruce it up. I think that they're doing a really good job here in Pokemon Violet so far. I think the game is really visually impressive. I think there are some hiccups with maybe draw distance or a little bit of pop in or things like that. Or maybe things could use some more detail, but overall, coming from Pokemon Leaf Green and Pokemon Sword, the open world does feel a little more realistic. I guess there's nothing really too realistic about the graphics, but it's just more fully fleshed out in this world, and I think it has more character to it. It just has a little bit more going on and a little more of a. It's just you can see the evolution in these, or I've been able to see these evolutions firsthand in the last couple months of where these games have gotten to, and I think it is really impressive. When you look around this world, I think one of the comparisons I have was Breath of the Wild. So it's not going to be a massive kind of like detailed world like Ghost of Yotei or something, or Red Dead Redemption. But Breath of the Wild is impressive in its own right for a lot of reasons. And some of the map is going to be sparse, but there's a lot going on, and I think there's a lot more going on than there has been in other Pokemon games in this one. So I think that's definitely a plus. And I just got to the point where I got Miraidon, and I'm able to ride on Miraidon, but I haven't done it yet. So I think once I leave, I just got shown where my room is at the academy. So I think once I leave the room, pretty much I'm out there on the open grand adventure, ready to take it on. So I think Miraidon's a really, really strong start to this game too. He's the legendary Pokemon on the cover. So depending on, you get Koraidon or Miraidon, and I think Miraidon's the cooler one to me. Miraidon at the beginning of the game, I guess maybe not, this game has been out for a while, but a little bit of a spoiler alert. Miraidon, has some of his powers zapped away. And so you're waiting for Miraidon to become completely legendary once again. And you are able to use the, ride around on him as the functionality for right now. You meet another trainer. That was interesting. It was I guess that was kind of like the other plot line. You meet the trainer who used to command Miraidon before, and now you are in charge. So you kind of get his blessing, which was nice too. And I think they just do a good job of setting the scene here of what's going on. But I think pretty much, next time I go to pick this game up, I'll pretty much be if I want to be, I'll be in the normal loop of trying to complete the gyms and make progress to take down the Paldea Cup. So I think they do a good job in this game too of putting all the icons on your map, and they give you the ability to go wherever you want, which is kind of another Breath of the Wild comparison. But I'm definitely going to do a little bit of research on the best strategic path to get through the game where it won't make it too difficult for myself. And that is how I think I'm going to tackle the open world. But my other plans are pretty much to build out my team or get a team that I really like. I think that's been kind of one of the most fun things to me about playing Pokemon games so far. So Sprigatito is going to be sticking around, which is fine with me. So my grass Pokemon is pretty much taken care of there unless I find another one I really like. I think the only other one in my party right now that I think is going to stick around is Ralts. So I caught a Ralts, and I would like to get Gardevoir. So this is a female Ralts. So eventually, I think at level 30, she's going to evolve into Gardevoir. And I think that's a fairy and a psychic Pokemon combination. So Gardevoir is going to stick around. I guess I've become a recent fan of Gardevoir, just thinking she's cool. So I think that is, I haven't had Gardevoir in any of the other games yet, really. So I think that is going to be another second mainstay on my team. Some of my other plans are to find a Glaceon early on or find an Eevee early on as I can. I don't think I'm able to really, really quickly, but it seems like I'm able to get an Eevee somewhat early on. I think finding the Ice Stone will be the harder part than actually finding the Eevee. And then another Pokemon I've looked up I can find early on is Riolu, so I can possibly get a Lucario again, since I really liked Lucario from Pokemon Sword. So those are kind of my plans so far for, building out my team. I only really have 2 slots on my team that are taken so far, so there's a lot of room to grow. And you never know, I might end up liking some of the Pokemon in my party. I have a Psyduck, I have a Diglett, I have a Pawmi. I'm trying to think who else is in my party currently. But the 2 main slots that are not going to be taken would be Sprigatito and Ralts for now. So I'm having a great time with Pokemon Violet. I think that's going to kind of be my main game to be trying to push through, get some story progress on. And if I can complete another Pokemon game this year, that will be pretty incredible as far as I'm concerned with the way that I complete games. So Pokemon Violet, I pretty much have gotten to the beginning of the game after getting through the tutorial. So I should have maybe a little more fun or unique to me of telling you about what my party is next week. So Pokemon Violet, having a lot of fun with that. So I have been on a very big Pokemon kick this year, so I've also been going back into Pokemon Sword a bit. And the only reason I've been doing that is so I can go in there and play some more as Glaceon, who is my favorite Pokemon. I really do like my list of Pokemon from Pokemon Sword, my top 6, which were Glaceon, Boltund, Lucario, Inteleon, Espeon, and Ninetales. My Leaf Green team was Lapras, Venusaur, Flareon, Articuno, Raichu, and Mr. Nido. So I think between these 2 games, I have pretty much all my current favorite Pokemon, which would be Glaceon and Boltund. Lapras and Lucario are getting pretty high up there. I think Venusaur is in there. And then I guess some of the starters like Inteleon and maybe Sprigatito later on will just be kind of in there. But, this list is ever evolving. I've been a Pokemon fan since I'm young, but I've had a resurgence recently and, figuring out my way and learning some new Pokemon and, loving some Pokemon I haven't loved before. So we'll see. So I'm keeping you up to date on my favorite Pokemon. It's something I've been liking to do in this section. But I've been back into Pokemon Sword a bit. I really don't know how much more of this game I'm going to play. I'm never really too much of like a post-game player of things, but the temptation here is just going back and playing some of the squad I really like. But, I have the ability to go do some more in this game. I do have the DLC for this game, which is the Isle of Armor DLC and the Crown Tundra DLC. So I think these are, I don't know how much story is involved in these, but there's definitely some opportunities to go catch some cool Pokemon here. So that might be something I just do for fun and just kind of keep leveling up Glaceon and Boltund in the squad. And I don't know, I kind of wrote it off like, hey, I'm not going to try any more Pokemon Sword, but I did go back into there some last week, and I am starting with the Isle of Armor. So you have to go to, Wedgehurst train station to move this part of it forward. I think it's recommended to do the Isle of Armor DLC before you would get into the Crown Tundra stuff. And when I got to the Isle of Armor, it seemed like most of the Pokemon there were around level 60, so that's up there with my squad. So I think maybe some of these things are more designed for post-game more so than middle of the game kind of thing. But you have to catch the Slowbro at the Wedgehurst train station to move this forward. So I think it was pretty cool. I really never knew that was right there in plain sight. I bought the DLC back when this game came out or right after. So, I guess that was like maybe in 2020 or something like that. So I've had it for a long time, and I could have accessed it earlier in the story if I knew, but, I did not know. All right, so I've been playing some more Pokemon Sword. I don't know if that one will keep getting updates for me, but, hey, I popped back in there amongst my Pokemon Violet playing. And I still kind of want to try to catch Entei in Pokemon Leaf Green. That's another thing that I feel like I have a little bit of unfinished business, but these might just be things I do over time of just building out my save files. All right, so what else have I been playing in the past week I want to tell you about? I've been playing some more Forza Horizon 6, which I believe is a very, very strong contender for Dep Lewis Show Game of the Year for 2026. I've been having an immaculate, nothing but fun time with this game. I don't have any complaints, and I continue to keep on making some progress here. So the thing I've been doing in the last week for real, since I've done a pretty good portion of all the races and, main racing type of icons on the map, and I still have one wristband to complete. I really need to get my act together. I really keep going, can't remember if it's a headband or a wristband, but either way, I'm on the last one. There's still a lot of experience to be gained to get to that last level, but I am sniffing the end of the progression on that side, and then I need to make a lot more progression on the story side. But the third aspect to this game that I've been trying to make some progress on is just the open world. So there's mascots to collect around the open world where you just run into them. There's experience signs around the open world to go to. There's speed traps. There's jumps. There's drift zones, which I think drift zones are my weakest area in this game so far. So those are the things I've been probably avoiding the most. But I spent a whole day pretty much just going and trying to find the jumps that I could take, which is really, really fun. You have to get a certain amount of distance on your jump, and you can get a 3-star ranking on it. So it felt a little bit Tony Hawk-like in there. So I've just been having nothing but fun with this game. The main two cars I've been using have still been the same. I've been using the yellow Porsche 911 Turbo S that I have, and a black. It's a BMW competition SUV, and that's the one I kind of use for, when I'm going to be trying to go off-road. But nothing in this game drives better to me than that Porsche 911 so far. And I'm trying to think if I've actually got any new cars. I think I have over $2 million in credits in this game, so I have the ability to buy some stuff, but I haven't really come across the need to buy anything for a particular race. But I'm trying to think what else I did. I think I've lowered the difficulty in this since I've last talked to you. I had gone up 2 difficulties like in one day a couple weeks ago and brought it back down because I was, I was losing. I guess that's why I wasn't getting first place like I'd like to complete some of these things. So I bumped it back down. I feel like that's helped. I don't think it hasn't been like a guaranteed win on this difficulty for me. So I think some of the racing styles in this open world are just not my forte. So I'm going to have to work at it a little bit. So I think like the drifting and some of like the dirt track racing is not my forte as much as like strict like road racing or track racing with like a sports car. I think that's some of the things I'm best at, and maybe just from playing a lot of Forza over the years. But this game rules. I'm having so much fun driving around Japan. I I'm not overwhelmed by the cars, but I have a few that are my favorites and tons of other ones I like driving around. I have a yellow Corvette in this game. That's cool. I'm trying to think of the other cars. I got a Porsche SUV, but I made it kind of a highlighter yellow color, so that kind of turns me off. And I don't think it's still as good as the BMW competition one that I'm rolling around in. But this game's extremely awesome. Definitely a strong contender for Game of the Year for Dep Lewis Show for 2026, and has been living up to all the hype for me. Every time I boot this game up and play it, I think I'm almost around the 40-hour mark of playing this. So I've been playing a good bit of time into this. I played a ton of this the first week it came out, so it's been more of a, I've been on a real big Pokemon kick, but Pokemon and Forza have been, doing some great things for me over here in my personal video gaming. So that's everything I've been playing in the past week. Been playing some Pokemon Violet, some Pokemon Sword, and Forza Horizon 6. All really amazing, extremely fun games. And this is the year of the front log on the Dep Lewis Show, so I'm not making a backlog, not worrying about my backlog, not trying to deep dive in the back of a franchise to the beginning of a franchise if I don't want to. So I'm looking towards the future, looking forward to the front log. And what I have on my front log so far for this year, only 2 games so far. There's plenty of more that I'm interested in, but these are going to be the 2 that I'm going to be most tempted on release day to buy these day one. And those are Marvel's Wolverine on September 15th. So just a couple months away, really. And then Grand Theft Auto 6, November 19th, which I'll talk a little bit more about that game in the midsection of this show today. So that's, an update on the year of the front log, and that's everything I got for you for this first section of the show. But there's plenty more of show left to go. And, I would say the midsection is probably the most important section each week, because that's where I tell you about everything going on around the video game world that you need to know. So please listen to this music and come back from the midsection after this. Welcome back to the midsection of Dep Lewis Show, episode 185. This is where I tell you about everything going on around the video game world that you need to know. And the first item I want to tell you about is something I alluded to in the first section, and there's been an update on Grand Theft Auto 6. And no, the release date has not moved. I think it's becoming more and more clear and confident that this game is going to release actually on November 19th, like intended. This game's been delayed before, but I think that November 19th date was in question for a while, especially by me, but it seems like all signs are pointing at this going to release in November. But Grand Theft Auto 6 has now revealed the cover art for the game. That's the news here. And they have stated that pre-orders are going to begin officially next week on June 25th. And that's for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series. So I think everyone, including myself, is excited to see what the price of this game is going to be. I think it's going to be at least $69.99. Is it going to get up to the $79.99 threshold that everyone has been worried about since Mario Kart World did that? I think if I had to pick one, I think it's just going to be the standard price of a game. I think it's going to be $69.99 for the base game, and I think there's going to be higher tiers, obviously, because that's what usually happens when games come out. So there maybe it'd be a play it early, a couple day kind of version, or whatever it may be. But I think if I'm going to guess, and I guess next week I can come back and tell you what happens for real, but I think this one's going to be, well, I don't know. Maybe it's going to do the Nintendo thing, $69.99 digitally and $79.99 physically if you want to buy it. So maybe that's a good guess, and that's what I'll stick with here on this show today. But I'm excited for Grand Theft Auto 6. It's going to be set in Vice City, USA. We got to see a new moving shot of Vice City in-game, which is pretty cool. So those have been the 2 things revealed. So we got a cover art, and you got to see a little, few second shot of the city, showing the scope of the city, showing the cool, just the rendering, the art style, the visuals of the city just looks really, really impressive. And everything from this game has seemed really, really impressive so far. So I think one of the rumors I read was we might be getting a new trailer for the game next week with the pre-orders going up. I think that sounds likely. So I'll probably have another Grand Theft Auto 6 update for you next week on the show. All right, so what else is going on? I want to tell you about Halo Campaign Evolved. Was going through a little bit of drama last week. This is going to release on July 28th for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and Steam. This is the faithful yet modernized remake of Halo Combat Evolved's campaign, rebuilt from the ground up. Play the legendary story with HD visuals, refined controls, up to 4-player online co-op, 3 new missions, and an expanded arsenal of weapons, vehicles, and new enemies. So the big hoopla last week was that you are going to, it does seem, I think with some of these cross-platform games like Forza Horizon 6 on PlayStation, you have to sign into your Xbox account through through the game. So I think there's some talk here of that. You might have to sign into your Xbox account. But I think the big gripe from last week that everyone was complaining about was it seemed like you were going to have a PlayStation and Xbox login to play split screen on the PlayStation 5. And then it was also seeming like you're both going to have PlayStation Plus to be able to play co-op. But Halo Studios now says Halo Campaign Evolved can be played local split screen on PlayStation 5 without both accounts needing PlayStation Plus. So really no word in there on if they're going to need an Xbox account, which, maybe they will. But some of that stuff is complicated, but maybe not as complicated as it was going to seem. So it seems like they're aware of people's criticisms there. I don't think you'd have to look too far to get that kind of criticism, but it does seem like there might be some type of touch over there on the Xbox side of things, even with this game being on PlayStation still, because that's been the case so far. But I've become more excited about this game from recent stuff they've been showing. This is one of my favorite games of all time. Definitely a seminal game of me growing up and getting an Xbox upon pretty close to release, and then getting this game. And I had a neighbor tell me about it. A little bit of an older neighbor told me and my friends about it, and he actually took us to get the game on the day it released, and just very, very memorable of a game. And I've loved all the Halo games, so definitely a huge nostalgia blast here. But my initial thought was, hey, I really don't need to play this game again. I spent years and years and years playing this game. But the 3 new missions is something that is tempting, and then they have an expanded arsenal of weapons, vehicles, and new enemies. And then, as always, seeing a little bit of a modern sheen on a game you love can be nice, but becoming more and more tempted to play some Halo Campaign Evolved, and it seems like they are at least aware of some of the annoying login stuff that we would like to avoid out there if possible. But I will most likely be playing this on my Xbox Series S, would be my guess, unless there's just really talks of it running poorly. But it would definitely be weird to play a PlayStation, an Xbox game on a PlayStation. It's not something I've quite done yet. I thought about playing Forza Horizon 5 or Gears of War Reloaded on there, but I just haven't done it yet. And now that I have the Series S, I do have the option of being back on the Xbox side of the house, which has been nice. All right, so that's the Halo Campaign Evolved updates. What else has been going on in the past week I want to tell you about? A couple of updates from Atlus and a franchise that is very cool, and a franchise that is near and dear to me, which is Persona. So Persona 6 got announced officially recently, and the only news with Persona 6 in the last week is the store pages have been updated. But there's not a lot of new specific info on there that I could suss out. But the back of the box talk on Persona 6 is Persona 6 brings everything beloved about the series into a bold new story. The signature blend of heartfelt daily life and pulse-pounding supernatural adventure returns, wrapped around a completely fresh, standalone story and a new cast of characters. Whether you've been with the series since the beginning or this is your very first Persona experience, you belong here. So that basically is a summary of all the games in the series, from what I can tell, from 3, 4, and 5. And still a lot of unanswered questions about Persona 6, but it seems like, the bare bones is going to be similar, which I think most people who are fans of Persona would like. And, the characters and the actual story and some of the new gameplay mechanics, I think those would be the things that people will be most interested in. And, Persona and the music, I guess, is a huge one. So the vibes and the music and the new characters, I think, are some of the things that carry the Persona franchise along. And, all those things are still a mystery in Persona 6. All right, Atlus also showed off a little bit more Persona 4 Revival, which is coming out next year, early next year on February 18th, 2027. So we did get that date recently. The standard edition is going to be $69.99, developed by Atlus and published by Sega. Persona 4 Revival, they had a broadcast last week, and the broadcast was a spotlight highlighting Persona 4 Revival's story, characters, battle system, and more. This took place on June 18th. So if you want to see some more of what this new Revival version of Persona 4 is looking like, you can go watch that spotlight that took place. I think I'm pretty much fully sold on this game. I'm becoming more and more of a fan of the Persona games over time. It's going to be a very happy day and excited and proud day for me if I ever complete a Persona game. And I think it will happen. I think I played too much of these games, and I like too much of what's going on with them to not complete one. And, that is my hope. And I think Persona 4 looks extremely cool. I think maybe it could be I think Persona 3 is my favorite for sure. I think 4 has the potential to be my second favorite, and 5 is a favorite, but it might have to end up being third in line. We will see. So you'll definitely be hearing me talk more and more about Persona over the time and over the years of this podcast, because it's something that I'm slowly and morally getting into. So very cool Persona updates, but nothing coming too soon. We got to pretty much wait till next year, but we might get some more details before then, is how it goes. All right. So a little bit of a talk of a game switching platforms, and this is one that I was kind of unaware wasn't already on this platform, but Call of Duty Black Ops 1 and 2 are being ported to PlayStation in July. So Treyarch and their partners Iron Galaxy are putting these ports over to PlayStation. So these games are available currently on Xbox, Steam, and PlayStation 3. So that is kind of why I thought these were already on PlayStation 4 and 5, but they are not. Black Ops 1 released in 2010 and Black Ops 2 released in 2012. So a little bit muddy waters between these. What's an exclusive? What's going to stay? What's going to go? Should I stay or should I go now? Exclusives, but Call of Duty is more of a third-party thing, even though that Microsoft does own Activision now. But you can see why they would want to put these on as many platforms. They're already on a bunch of platforms, and there's probably a lot of people over there that would like to play these on their PlayStation 4 and 5. So I think this one's a pretty cool thing. I've never got into the Black Ops side of Call of Duty as much as I did Modern Warfare, but I could see myself putting these on I do have some of these games on a wish list on my Xbox of, hey, if they ever go on sale pretty cheap, maybe I'll pick up one of these and run through the campaign and just kind of have a little nostalgia blast on some Call of Duty. But Black Ops 1 and 2 are being ported to PlayStation in July is the word there. All right, a game that released last week that looks very cool. It's been getting good reviews from what I can see. I haven't really heard too many people talking about this. This is an RPG, so maybe people haven't really got too far in it to want to talk about it, but The Adventures of Elliot, The Millennium Tales is available right now as of June 18th. This is a brand new action RPG from the creators of Octopath Traveler and Bravely Default. This game certainly does look beautiful. It combines the stunning HD 2D visuals and exciting action-adventure gameplay for the first time. Developed by Square Enix and Claytek Works, published by Square Enix. This game is a standard edition, $59.99 USDs. It's available across the board on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, Switch 2, and Steam. So this is one I could see myself playing. I've been getting more and more into RPGs, and I have Dragon Quest III HD 2D, so that's kind of the first game I own that is in this vein, I guess, besides Sea of Stars, but it's definitely something I enjoy, and I think this game looks really, really cool. So if you're all caught up or just really wanting to make the jump on The Adventures of Elliot, The Millennium Tales, you are able to do so right now. All right, a game that released last year. It's an updated version of an older game, but Final Fantasy Tactics, the Ivalice Chronicles, has an update 1.5.0 out now. I think it's cool because it added New Game Plus, and that's the biggest thing here. They've added Zodiac compatibility function and new options. So just a little bit of a quick update there. If you completed Final Fantasy Tactics, the Ivalice Chronicles, you can go do some New Game Plus stuff if you would like to. This game is featuring fully voiced dialogue, beautifully enhanced graphics, and countless gameplay improvements. The genre-defining tactical RPG makes its long-awaited return. So that is a beloved section of the Final Fantasy franchise, and a new update is available for it now. All right, so getting into some more kind of corporate side news, corporate side of the news section here, and this first one is definitely very sad. But Ubisoft, the co-founder Claude, I think it's Guillermo. I looked it up. Guillermo, has died in a twin plane engine crash last Friday in France. Both he and the flight instructor were killed, and I just want to say, thoughts and prayers to all his friends and family and all the people involved. Just very devastating and unexpected, and just very sad news over there at Ubisoft. So, thoughts and prayers to Claude Guillermo's family. And I'm sorry that I'm pronouncing the last name incorrectly, but, thoughts and prayers over there to everyone involved, everyone, friends and family. So just sad news there that I wanted to tell you about. But so, going along to more corporate news, and nothing as bad as that, Xbox Game Studios has making a couple changes. So we've been talking about a lot of Xbox changes in the past week. They had their Xbox showcase, and then a couple of days later, hey, they announced pretty much that we're going to be making a lot of changes, aka layoffs, aka studio closures, etc. So a little bit in that same vein, Xbox Game Studios, the head of Xbox Game Studios, Craig Duncan, and Chief of Staff Luis O'Connor are leaving Xbox after decades. So both previously served long tenures at British studio Rare, which Duncan headed up for more than 10 years. So some pretty incredible video game expertise walking out the door. And, I think that's going to be the case for a long time here at this Xbox. I think it was 100 days of a shakeup, and we're pretty much early on in that. So we're going to see what's going to happen. But those have already taken place. So Craig Duncan and Luis O'Connor are leaving Xbox. And then the rumor mill has still been rumoring. I don't know where some of these developers are at in the process, but it seems like this is bad news for, Microsoft and these developers. Whether these developers are going to land on their feet through someone else buying them is still up in the air. And I think that's what's being discussed now. So for these Xbox layoffs, it's being reported that they are going to close Ninja Theory, Compulsion Games, and Double Fine. So those are the next ones on the chopping block for Xbox, which is just really sad to see. But all of these developers are seemingly in active negotiations about spinning off. So they're hoping a potential buyer can save the studios. So Ninja Theory, mainly developers of the Hellblade series, that's their biggest one. They did the 2013 reboot of Devil May Cry. They also developed Heavenly Sword. Compulsion Games most recently did South of Midnight, and they did We Happy Few previously. And then Double Fine has done games like Psychonauts, I guess it's 1, 2, and 3, and Brutal Legend. So some, incredibly legendary developers over there at Double Fine. And there's a lot of things up in question here, which is very, very sad. But I don't think any of these have been made completely official. But I do think there has been, at least going to be a severing of the Xbox connection with these developers. But hopefully some of these developers are big enough to stand on their own. But I think they're probably going to need some significant investment to be able to, be long living. So, thoughts and prayers to all those people involved as well. It seems like, some people are going to lose their job for sure. And, thinking of those people going through those times, and hopefully they can land on their feet. All right. So just continuing on, last bit of news I want to talk about this week. This one is more of kind of a general thing about the PlayStation exclusives. So we've gotten, some back and forth on that. Xbox is doing some back and forth on that of what they want to do with their exclusives. And, Jason Schreier was reporting in the past week. This is a quote from Jason Schreier about PlayStation exclusives. And he says, "I guess they're not going to lay this out publicly, but there's no ambiguity in their strategy. During a town hall a few weeks ago, Herman Hulst, CEO of SIE, Sony Interactive Entertainment, told staff that their single-player games will be PlayStation only, and he explained that they were inconsistent with their PC releases, they didn't make enough money, and they want to keep their IP aligned to their own platform. Confirmed this with two people who heard him say it. There's no case-by-case here." So definitely a drastic change. It doesn't seem like they're going to make like a public memo about this, but they are changing things internally, and they have changed internally is what Jason Schreier is reporting. So it'll be interesting to see how these things play out. I think Ghost of Yotei was the next one on the docket to come to PC, and I think that's already been canceled. I'm not 100% sure on that, but we have Marvel's Wolverine coming out, and it does seem like these companies are pulling back their exclusives. I'm in the vein of, having the options is nice, but I do think for these companies that if you just have everything available everywhere, it doesn't make your platform as special. So I think there's definitely a strategy in that. And I think they're both kind of trying to pull back on some of their, hey, let's put everything everywhere strategy and focus their efforts a little more, which I think it's safe to say a lot of these corporations do need to focus their efforts in a better way. And unfortunately results in, layoffs a lot of times where they have spread themselves around too much. And then they realize, oh man, we really can't sustain this. And they have to focus in. So, I think always being focused in is probably smart. I think these things get away from these giant companies. And the worst part of that is all the people being affected. So, thoughts and prayers out to all those people. And especially thoughts and prayers out to the co-founder of Ubisoft who passed away, Claude Guillermo. And I'm saying your name wrong probably again, but, thoughts and prayers. All right. So that's everything I have for the midsection of the show this week. That's everything I wanted to update you on the video game world, everything that's going on. We talked about Grand Theft Auto 6. We talked about Halo Campaign Evolved. We talked about Persona 6, Persona 4 Revival. We talked about Call of Duty Black Ops, The Adventures of Elliot, The Millennium Tales, Final Fantasy Tactics, The Ivalice Chronicles, Ubisoft co-founder Claude Guillermo passing away in a plane crash. We talked about the Xbox Game Studios change. We talked about the Xbox layoffs involving Ninja Theory, Compulsion Games, and Double Fine. And we talked about PlayStation exclusives, some reporting from Jason Schreier there on that. So that's everything I got for you for the midsection of the show this week. a little bit slower of a week after what we've been seeing with all the different showcases and everything. But even looking at this now, definitely a lot of news, kind of more corporate high strategy stuff. So I guess more and more of this year has been laid out. So these companies kind of, I guess, are looking towards the future a little more with their plans and talking about that in the public and things coming out. So that's everything that happened in the past week, but there's still one final section of the show left to go. The final section, the Miscellaneous Talk section, it's normally pretty short and sweet. I like to catch you up with what's going on with all my favorite teams, and I want to do so after this music. Welcome back to the final section of Dep Lewis Show, episode 185. This is where I can talk about anything I want to outside the video game world. So as always, I want to get into the worldwide world of sports and tell you what's going on with all my favorite teams. Starting off on the NFL side of things, nothing going on with my favorite team, the Carolina Panthers. It's the offseason for them. I'm just looking forward to the first preseason game, which is taking place on August 6th. So less than 2 months away. It's going to be the Panthers at the Cardinals in the Tom Benson Hall of Fame game at the Hall of Fame Stadium in Canton, Ohio. So just go Panthers. Nothing to report there. I think they're doing some of their off-season training. So, football will be here before we know it. The NBA, moving on to the NBA, that's wrapped up recently. The Knicks won the championship. So everybody is in the off-season now, including I'm a halfway fan of the Charlotte Hornets since I've been a North Carolina resident for a couple years now. It's the off-season for the Hornets, but the upcoming NBA draft is this week. So just a couple days away on June 23rd. So I'll be reporting back next week on who my favorite teams get in the NBA draft. And the Hornets have the 14th and the 18th pick in the first round. So they have 14th is is the latest lottery pick, and then 18 is just a few after that. So that's nice. At least after getting the late lottery pick, they can kind of double dip on two players in the same area. And then my favorite NBA team, who I'm still angry at after the Trae Young trade last season, the Atlanta Hawks, off season for them as well, obviously. And in the upcoming draft, in the first round, they have the 8th and the 23rd pick. So they had some pretty high chances to get a top 3 pick or possibly even be the number 1 pick. And they got dropped down to number 8, which is pretty sad because the Hawks could have used some good luck. But still angry about them, but I'm still hopeful. I'm still hanging on as a fan, and I will keep you updated on them as always. And then my favorite sport in the universe, Major League Baseball, and my favorite team in the universe, the Atlanta Braves. I guess they've been a little bit up and down last week, but they have been doing splendid, wonderful, outstanding this season, all the way across the board. A little bit of good news, a lot of bit of great news. Drake Baldwin is back. The Braves' second year all-star, top of baseball catcher, Drake Baldwin back in the lineup. Very nice. They also, I don't know if this took place right before Baldwin was back, but the Braves did trade for a catcher. They've been, ever since they got rid of Jonah Heim, they have, the Braves have, Drake Baldwin and Sean Murphy. Sean Murphy has been, having a lot of injury troubles. Drake Baldwin has his little bit of injury troubles, and they were cooking a little bit earlier in the season. Jonah Heim was the third guy, and they got rid of him kind of when Murphy came back, but then Murphy gets injured pretty closely after, so the Braves have to pivot. They get some Chadwick Tromp in there. They most recently had Sandy Leon, who they've now designated for assignment, and the Braves have traded for catcher Joey Bart from the Pirates. So this took place on June 18th. They exchanged right-handed pitcher Hunter Stratton to try to, they really do kind of need a third guy with this lineup right now, especially with how it's been going. Murphy has had some, injury concerns for sure, and Drake Baldwin's had a little bit kind of more just kind of normal injury stuff, but they really need a third guy in there to kind of hold the fort while those two guys are getting their act together. So that was some good news from last week. Drake Baldwin is back. And then some of the more bummer news, Spencer Strider goes to the 60-day IL on June 17th for right elbow inflammation. It doesn't seem like he's going to need surgery, but it looks like he's going to need some more time to heal and see kind of what's going on with his right elbow. His velocity has been down, and there's clearly something affecting his pitching. So very sad stuff over there for Mr. KK Strider. And then the report on Ronnie, who is also on the IL, is going to be a long time until he returns for his hamstring. So I think that's a smart thing. I think they need to be as cautious as possible, especially with the team playing so well. There's exactly zero reason to get Ronald Acuna rushed back. I think you kind of need to get him ready for the playoffs would be the main thing in my mind. And I think Ronald could be maybe a good candidate for a DH. I don't know why I keep thinking of like Manny Ramirez in regards to Ronnie, but him being a DH, he can put the bat on any ball that's pitched at him. maybe limiting some of his time out there in the field, just ability to pull his hamstring. He's still going to be lightning around the bases, but maybe you have him steal less bases. I don't know, but I think his bat is extremely important. I think all the things he does on the baseball field is important, but maybe for the longevity of Ronnie, he really needs to just focus on being at the plate, hammering home runs and RBIs, and doing all the things he can do up there at the plate. And that's just kind of my take over here as a Braves fan from what I've been seeing, but definitely frustrated, as I'm sure Ronnie is, to be injured still. But since last week, the results of the games that have taken place, last Sunday, the Braves played the Mets, and the Braves lost 1-8. So very disappointing to lose to the Mets in any regard. The Braves had an off day on Monday, and then they started a 3-game series in Atlanta versus the Giants, which did not go so well, and there was some weather problems as well. But on Tuesday, the Braves started the game, and it got postponed until the next day because of a rain delay. But the Braves finished that game on Wednesday. It was 2-7, and then the actual scheduled game on Wednesday, the Braves lost 5-7. So 2 losses over the course of 2 days. Very disappointing. And then Thursday versus San Fran, the game was completely postponed due to the weather. So pretty wild series in Atlanta, having some wild summer weather going on that is messing up the baseball going on. And then this weekend, the Braves have been in Atlanta versus the Brewers, who are a very good team, one of the top teams in baseball, and they got to face one of the top pitchers in baseball, Mizorowski, on Friday, and the Braves actually won 3-2, so very impressive. Saturday versus the Brewers. Last night, the Braves won 4-3, or yesterday afternoon, and the Ozzie Albies, the great Ozzie, walked them off with a 2-run bomb, so very exciting. So yesterday, after the Braves win, the Braves are 48-27, and they're tied for the MLB lead with the Dodgers, so the Dodgers have been creeping up there on the Braves' overall lead a little bit. And the Yankees and the Brewers are right behind the Braves and the Dodgers. And then for the division, the NL East, the Braves are number 1, and they are 7.5 games up on the Phillies in the division. So very, very good stuff there, as the Braves have been slipping on winning the division recently, where they did not slip on that for 20 years or something like that, or pretty much my whole childhood. The Braves are playing the Brewers again today to close out this weekend series at 1:35, so about an hour and a half from real time. So I'll have plenty of time to edit the podcast and get it out, and then I can watch the Braves and have some lunch. That's kind of my plan over here. Next week, the Braves are going to start the week off 3 at San Diego, so no Monday off for the Braves this week. So flying out to the West Coast, 3 at San Diego, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The Braves are off Thursday, and then at San Francisco to go get some payback over there on the West Coast for 3 for next weekend. So that's all that's going on with the Braves, and, go Braves as always. I've been walking around more and getting some more Go Braves chants from people. I'm always wearing a Braves shirt or a Braves hat for the most part, or a lot of days I am, and, that's a pretty cool thing about seeing the Braves fans out there. And it's a great squad, and I'm happy to be an Atlanta Braves fan, especially right now. So that's everything I got going on in the sports world I want to tell you about. We talked about all my favorite teams, the Carolina Panthers, the Charlotte Hornets, the Atlanta Hawks, and the Atlanta Braves. So that's going to wrap up this final section of the show, and that's going to wrap up the entire show. So I'd like to reiterate some promotional talk from the beginning. Please follow Dep Lewis Show everywhere. Full episodes of Dep Lewis Show available anywhere you can find a podcast. So find the best place to subscribe and listen weekly. Places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Amazon Music, and more. YouTube is also a great place to watch me play some games live or check out the videos later. If you would like to support the show even further than just listening, patreon.com/Dep Lewis Show is available if you like to subscribe monthly. Also, Venmo at Dep Lewis Show is available any day, anytime, for any amount if you would like to support the show. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a wonderful week out there in the world, wherever and whenever, or whenever you listen to this and wherever you are. I hope you have a great week. If things are going your way, I hope that continues. If things are not going your way, I hope that changes. I'll be back next week for another episode of Dep Lewis Show to talk about everything you need to know going on around the video game world. I'll most likely be making some more progress on Pokemon Violet. I'll be playing some more Forza Horizon 6, probably driving around the open world at least. I'll be watching some more of the Braves. Definitely be watching some more of the World Cup. I didn't really mention that, but I've been having fun watching the World Cup. The USA have won their first 2 games, which is fun. I watched Germany in an exciting win yesterday, a comeback win. The Netherlands really put a beat down on a team yesterday, and then Ecuador and Curacao last night played a really competitive game down to the end that ended in a tie in extra time. So I've been having a lot of fun watching the World Cup, and will continue to do so. I had fun watching Colombia the other night, so I've been trying, with my little bit of soccer knowledge, I'm figuring out some players I like and things like that, and just overall having a fun time watching the World Cup. So, shout out to all those guys playing out there, and shout out to you. I hope you have a wonderful week out there in the world, and I will talk to you next time. Goodbye.